Assalamu alaikum students. This video lecture is for pre-9th class subject physics chapter number 2 and students today our topic is graphical analysis of motion. Before discussing graphical analysis of motion, first let we discuss a diagram. This diagram shows runs scored by a cricket team. In this diagram we have two axes, x-axis and y-axis. On y-axis we have runs which are scored by the team and on x-axis we have overs. With the passage of overs, the runs which are scored by the team are on vertical column and on horizontal on x-axis there here we have overs. Students, this is graph between overs and runs. In this graph we have two quantities, overs and runs which are scored. So this is called graph. So with the help of this graph we will discuss some of the terminologies. First of all, graph. What is graph? Students, graph is pictorial way of presenting information about a relation between different quantities like overs and runs. This graph represents the relation between overs and runs. Here we have overs and runs. In first 10 overs about runs are less than 50 and in first 20 overs runs are about 100 or less than 100. So this graph, this pictorial way, this represents a relation between different quantities like over and runs. The second thing, variables, the quantities between which this graph has been drawn, these quantities are called variables. For example, over and runs, these are variable quantities. The third thing, independent quantity and dependent quantities. Independent quantity, here we have overs are independent quantities and runs are called dependent quantities because runs depend upon the overs, not over depend upon the runs. So in this case independent quantities are these overs and dependent quantities are runs. The next is distance time graph and speed time graph. These two things we will discuss in next video. So this is all about graph. Basically graph is pictorial way of presenting information between two relation between two quantities like in this case and variables are these two quantities between which we have drawn a graph is called are called variable quantities and dependent and independent quantities I have told you and next thing we will discuss in next video. Thank you.